Toronto's mayoral by-election. It's on June 26th, in case you're wondering exactly what day you should get out there and vote. We've been speaking with a number of top mayoral candidates on this program over the past couple of weeks. We'll continue them later on this week as well. And one of the things we're talking to each one of them about is what their plans are for housing in our city, because as we all know, hard to come by, especially affordable housing and housing affordability in this city. And we have talked to all of them and heard from them about their promises and their policy ideas and their plans should they become Toronto's next mayor. The big question is, though, is how do they actually stack up in reality? So we've assembled a couple of guests this morning to talk about that. Mark Richardson is a volunteer technical lead for HousingNowTO. This is a group that monitors the city's progress on its Housing Now plan. And Mazyar Mortazavi is president and CEO of TAS. This is an impact real estate development firm. They're both with me. Good morning.
Good morning.
Okay, Mark. He's wearing a HousingNowTO. Yeah, Toronto shirt. There you go. Okay, so as a voter with a particular focus on housing, when you're listening to the various candidates, what are two or three or four things that they're listening for in the candidates' platforms and the words that are coming out of their mouths?
So our volunteers focus specifically on affordable rental housing. So we're a specific part of the housing spectrum. The three things that we look for every time in a candidate's platform is government land. Are they committing to assigning government land to build affordable housing? Are they talking about ways to bring new billions of dollars, and it is billions with a B, to create affordable housing at speed and at scale? And the third one is actually the sort of most important one in a way. It's, are they willing to go fast, and are they willing to upset the neighbors?
What do you mean by that?
Well, we've got a case, like the modular housing at Cummer, which is a site the city approved a couple of years ago, that's still going through appeals with the neighbors. We've had Housing Now sites that have been appealed by neighbors. People are very resistant to more density. People are very resistant to affordable housing, and you have to be able. The city has a target to reach 40,000 new units of affordable housing by 2030. You don't reach those targets if it takes you 8-9 years to deliver a 100-unit building.
Okay, on those three criteria, whose platform, is there one or two that stand out for you based on that measurement?
So we're numbers nerds, first
Okay.
of all. We come from, does the math work? Does this make sense? Does it pencil? And we're really impressed by Mitzi Hunter's platform because she produced a large policy document that has rent bans, has details on how she's going to deliver things. Josh Matlow has done a pretty good job on that as well. Anna Bilaus is quite a good platform. Surprised that there's not as much detail in Olivia Chow's platform as we would have expected. And, we're just sort of working through, Chloe Brown is another person who's put out quite a detailed platform. I would say that there's a real split between those who want to kind of stand up a brand new city agency, a public build model of creating affordable housing, and those who sort of want to do Housing Now Plus, which is do what we're doing now, partnering with private sector developers, but doing it faster and more efficiently.
Okay, we'll talk about the public-private thing in just a bit, but I want to bring Mazyar into our conversation. As a builder, what are, let's do top three again. Top three obstacles to getting homes built in this city.
It's a great question, Pia, and I would build on some of the things that Mark sort of talked about. But I think at the heart of it is process, and time is money, and the reality is that it just takes so long in the city to get things done, and so that directly correlates back into how we're driving affordability. And so I would sort of mark that as number one. The second is around leadership that's going to bring in the different layers of government together. It is billions of dollars. I sometimes laugh when you hear candidates talk that they're going to deliver $25 million or $50 million. This is a multi-trillion-dollar problem when you actually tie it back into the performance of our economy, the accessibility for housing, for employment, and how we're going to actually drive performance and to drive sort of efficiency in our ecosystem broadly. And I think that is really, really fundamental. And then the third piece I would sort of talk about, which brings both of those things together, is public-private partnership. the real need to sort of, we each have skill sets. The city can unlock opportunities. The industry can deliver performance. And we have to recognize that, in staying within our own lanes, but holding hands together, we can unlock the true potential of what the city's magic is.
Okay, let's talk about these dividing line, this public-private thing. So that is not the only dividing line, but some candidates who are running to be our next mayor believe there should be a new public builder. Some want to continue with the current model and incentivize private development. So I'll ask both of you. Mark, why don't you start? Which one do you like more, just because? It's like, what is the more viable, realistic option?
It will take a very long time to stand up a new public agency. It's taken, I think, 5 or 6 years to split the Toronto Community Housing Agency into TCHC and now the Seniors Housing Agency. This mayor, because it's a by-election, is only going to have 3.5 years. And really, they're not really going to find out where the bathrooms are until October this year. So how do we deliver quickly? I think we're not against the idea of establishing a public builder, but a public builder should probably start with some of the smaller sites that are 100, 200 units. They shouldn't be starting on big TTC parking lots that are trying to scale up to 1,500 units of housing. That's, it's a $700 million, $800 million project. You don't want to make that the first thing you try. So I think it's going to be a dual path system for a while, where the things that are currently underway are already proceeding and the city begins to get its feet wet with a public builder. But the idea that you're going to deliver tens of thousands of units via a public builder in the first 4 or 5 years, the facts and the stats just don't back that up.
Okay, except for one of the arguments for a public builder is that the current model isn't working. He wants to get in, but he'll let me finish. I mean, the Housing Now plan, where developers would transform city-owned lands into 10,000 affordable homes, hasn't seen a single unit built in years. So you want to say something? Go ahead.
I totally want to say something, because so we've heard this housing now is housing never. Yeah. I don't think there's any other building in the city of Toronto. Housing Now started in December of 2018. These sites were announced. You can look at any other building in the city of Toronto that was announced in December of 2018. It has not broken ground yet in the city of Toronto. Housing Now and the delay and the failure of breaking ground on these things is symptomatic of the problem throughout the whole system, the process problem. It's the first time that the city has understood how many landmines it has spent the last 20, 30, 40 years laying in front of housing development in this city.
Okay. I want to get you. Thank you for that. Mazyar, tell me where you stand on the public-private development thing.
No, I think part of the problem is that we're having a binary conversation. It doesn't have to be either or. It's an and I do agree. The magnitude of the problem we have to solve is so large that it's not about one entity doing it. It's about sort of how do you bring the best in class to the table and work together, and that's both from the city side and from the private sector side. The great opportunity that the city has is around process and policy. Their power to unlock that means the ability for them to clear the path, to remove the landmines that have been set, and to sort of create the efficiencies of project delivery, and then for them to drive accountability and policy requirements to developers and the private sector in terms of the percentage of affordable housing and inclusionary housing that's going to be delivered. So I think it's sort of, we have to sort of stop this conversation of us versus them. It really needs leadership that recognizes that through collaboration and partnership between the multiple levels of government and across industry, we're going to unlock the problem that we have and be a joint provider of the solutions that we need. That's going to be the kind of leadership that we need, that's not divisive, but really collaborative in bringing the best of both sides together to unlock the potential that we have.
So I asked Mark this, and you can answer it the same way when you look at the platforms, but you're also talking about vision and someone who can bring people together. So when you look at the mayoral candidates out there, is there a platform when it comes to housing that you think, yep, that is viable, along with the person who is putting that platform forward?
Listen, I think the great part of a process process like this is that you see a multitude of ideas. And I don't think there is one platform that it's like, wow, this one just nails it. But you can take from the different ones. I think it comes down to the quality of leadership. Who's going to come forward and be able to sort of coalesce the various stakeholders? This is stakeholder management. Right? This is at the heart of being able to unlock incredible potential. And it's the leadership that's going to do this, because it's not just what happens within the city bureaucracy that has to be unlocked. We have the most incredible bureaucracy in the world in our city. Our planning departments and building departments are some of the hardest working folks we have, but they're working with a series of constraints. We need those constraints removed. The collaborations that we've seen in terms of the funding that's been unlocked at the federal and provincial level, the precedent is there. Who can build on those precedents and continue to drive that forward? And then the relationship with the public sector. I'll use our 299 Campbell project. The Campbell is a rental building where we've put in a public library for the first time at the base of a privately built building. We've delivered 10 units of deeply affordable housing, rent geared to income. That all happened through partnership with the city, through sort of leadership that was there. And this is the kind of leadership we need to continue to unlock this kind of potential. The precedents are there. We need the leadership to bring it forward.
Yeah, we need to photocopy buildings like Campbell and other projects that are going on around the city and just repeat them over and over and over again. We've been lucky. We've taken all 7 major candidates out on Housing Now site tours. A couple of hours walking around big dumb surface parking lots next to transit stations. And it's been interesting that when they actually are standing in that 7 or 8 acre parking lot and we start talking about how many billions of dollars it will take to turn that into the 14 or 1500 units of housing that are on that site and on the other 20 some sites around the city, it suddenly becomes very clear to them about the scale and how little time they have to execute on it, 3.5 years as a mayoral candidate.
Where do you think we'll be 3.5 years from now? Like, are we going to be having the same conversation? That's everyone's worry, right? Like, housing has been a chronic long-term challenge in Toronto.
Who's the prime minister in 2025? It's a the federal government has to show up with billions of dollars in a way they haven't shown up with billions of dollars in the last 20 years.
What about you, Mazyar? Are we going to be further ahead, do you think, in 3.5 years with the new mayor?
And I'm a big believer that things need to break before you can fix them. We're very complacent. People forget how incredibly amazing it is to live in Toronto, in Canada, how easy it is. We don't wake up to riots. We don't wake up to people taking what belongs to us the morning we're up. These fundamentals that we have here are incredible. I know I speak from a place of privilege as a developer, but I also recognize that as an immigrant and an immigrant family who's come here, we came here with nothing, and what this country has provided for us has been unbelievable. I want that for my kids and for future generations that come, but we have to be proactive around this. We have to recognize that we collectively, living in a place like this, are privileged to have the kinds of securities that we do, but that we have a lot of challenges that face us today. Those challenges need to be overcome so that we can sustain the extraordinary that this place has and the extraordinary potential that needs to be realized for us to continue into the future.
I appreciate you both coming in today and giving us your perspective. Thank you.
It's a pleasure. Thank you, Pia.
Mark Richardson is a volunteer technical lead for HousingNowTO, and Mazyar Mortazavi is president and CEO of TAS, which is an impact real estate development firm. It's a nice day out there. Might get